Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Budget Investing. Today I'm going to give you just a quick overview of what's been happening in my portfolio over the last few days, and then I'm going to go over what could be the next trillion-dollar industry. This industry is rapidly growing, it's changing a lot, and there seems to be a lot of new names coming into the market, and there are a lot of different companies that are still not publicly traded yet, but may be growing and looking to become public to rapidly expand. So first of all, you can see my portfolio to this point has made me about $460 in unrealized gains. So if I were to sell all of my stocks, I'd make about $460. So it's not a ton of money, but it's about 7.5%, which is pretty good growth in the last year or so. And as we're at the end of March, I've received all of the dividends that I'll receive for the entire month, which is about $17, which isn't as great as my all-time high back in December of $33, but I did make $31 in January. Also want to put a caveat on my December earnings, as I did get a special payment of an additional $10 from Costco, so that should be a little bit closer to $23. Now, I know you're wondering, what was this sector or this industry that you were alluding to that could become the next trillion-dollar industry, and how can I get in on it? So Boeing, SpaceX, Blue Origin, what do all of these companies have in common? Space exploration. This is a huge, growing industry that has the potential to be the next trillion-dollar industry. This can range from making space stations to just making different rockets to get astronauts or people into space, colonizing other planets, and so much more. Of course, going back into the space race between like the Cold War of Russia and the US, there was a huge push just to get to the moon. And with that came a mountain of technology. And of course, we still use a ton of that to this day. So of course, the internet greatly improved, our computers improved, and we got lasers and tons of technology that has developed across that. Now, NASA wants to be involved in this again still, and they want to keep pushing the boundary and seeing how far we can go. So the latest thing that NASA is doing is they're trying to push companies like the Boeings, the SpaceX, the Blue Origins, and of course anyone else that's willing to get involved. They're trying to push them to create new space stations. They're going to put up to $400 million into this, so they're going to award that upwards of 4 different companies. Now, NASA's done something like this very recently already, and they challenged companies through different grants and awards to build a new rocket system that will allow them to get their astronauts from Earth to the International Space Station, as well as carrying cargo there. And of course, NASA's already estimated that saved them between $20 to $30 billion already, and it only cost them a couple $100 million. It's commercializing the process, and it's really speeding things up. Another huge possibility in the field of space would be space tourism. And for a small price of $250,000, Virgin Galactic will take you to space and they'll bring you back to Earth. Now, this hasn't been done yet, but they're already starting to pre-book these flights and take deposits on this. With this boom that appears to be coming in the space industry, it looks like people are wanting to get in on this. So hopefully you've heard of Cathie Wood and her ARK investment firm. They have been honestly the biggest and most successful investment firm over the last year to 2 years. They've generated huge returns over such a short period of time. Now recently, they are launching their space exploration ETF. This ETF is hoping to capitalize on this boom that's coming in the space exploration. Now, the focus of this particular ETF from ARK is, of course, going to be on reusable rockets, orbital aerospace, suborbital aerospace, aerial drones, 3D printing, and enabling technology. So this can be a really large sector, and there's still so much to be learned and so much to discover at this point. Now, I just wanted to dive a little bit deeper into a couple of the stocks that are actually within this ETF. So we have John Deere, line 13. We have Google, we have Amazon, we have Netflix, just to name a couple. I don't know about you, but for myself, I have a hard time wrapping my head around how these companies connect to space exploration. You can maybe reach a little bit with Google being like, all right, well, they're cloud storage and they do some computer stuff, but how do you connect Netflix? How do you connect John Deere? For this to be a space exploration ETF, these aren't the kind of companies that I would have expected. I would have thought there'd be a lot of companies that are making engines or companies that are involved in computer technologies, things like that. I have a hard time buying into the fact that this ETF is focused on space exploration. We don't know where this sector is going to grow from. There's going to be a ton of technology that comes out of this, and there is a huge potential for somebody to make a lot of money. But right now, when I'm looking at that ETF and I'm looking at the specific stocks it's holding, it doesn't scream space exploration for me right now. I think they're trying to buy in on the hype that things are getting really exciting in that world because of the little things that like NASA's doing and a lot of the smaller breakthroughs that are happening. But ARC is a business. They need to make money, so they title this with space exploration, and I'm sure they have plans to adapt it and change it as things evolve, as new companies become publicly traded or as new companies grow. And I think that's where you'll start to see things. So yes, buying in right now, not super space oriented, but will likely become that way as we explore further and further away from Earth and get closer to colonizing the moon or even colonizing Mars down the future. Now, this isn't to say that the space sector won't be a huge industry. I think it will have a place in a budget investor's portfolio. However, today, I'm not adding a new slice into my sector diversification right now for space. I do think that space exploration will become a huge industry. I just think we're a few years away from it, and my money can be better served somewhere else in the interim. Now, in 5 years, that might be totally different, and I might want to put a whole bunch of money in there. But again, just today, in March of 2021, I would hold off on it. You could be an early adopter and get into it right now, and you might make a ton of money by getting in on the ground floor. I'm personally going to wait. There's still a lot of companies that are very private and they haven't gone public yet, so you can't buy their stock anyways, as there's just so much learning and there's so much that needs to be done. It's still just too volatile for a budget investor like myself. Hopefully you found this information helpful today in regards to what could become the latest and greatest sector and the next growing industry. Let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video of budget investing.